And thanks so much for coming to, our first ever alumni networking panel. We're super excited to bring you 6 alumni of the Department of Public Relations and Advertising. Their graduations years vary from 2018 to 2020, so a lot of great experience, a couple years under their belt, as well as, just recent graduates with new experiences. So I know they're really excited to be here and to share their experiences and insights with you. So I guess just to get things started, I will hand it off to the panelists just to give a brief little intro of, who they are, tell you a little bit about their experience. So, you know what, Bill, since you were first to join the party, I won't let you wait anymore. So, Bill, if you want to take it away.
All right. Yeah, sure. I'll do it. I'll make it short and sweet. We got a lot to get through. I'm Bill, everybody. Nice to meet you. I'm class of 18 Al, advertising with a focus in art direction. My journey, my Braithwaite Communications just celebrated my 2-year anniversary there. Do we want to talk about like our history? Thank you, Marissa. Do we want to talk about like our schooling history here, how we like work through clients, stuff like that? Is that what we want to do?
Just what did we put in here? Just your, graduation, your major, you already got that, your current title, and then just kind of, briefly about, how the Department of Public Relations and Advertising has provided
the story, the good stuff. All right, cool. So I'm at Braithwaite Communications now. I'm a graphic designer there, and going back to my time at Temple, I started Temple. I was in Tyler School of Art. That's where I started. And, I always wanted to be a graphic designer doing art. So naturally, I thought that the best fit would be artist art school. Started at Tyler. And fast forward to my sophomore year, I realized that this wasn't the best fit for me. So I did my transition. I discovered Klein. And after, pulling some strings and having some difficult conversations, I made that transition to Klein. And I can honestly say that that decision was one of the best decisions of my life. And it is fully the reason I am where I am right now and have the position that I'm currently in. So that's my experience with Klein. Big fan. I don't know if I have any more to say there, but we'll get into that later. But Klein, great. Definitely prepared you. A lot of the classes I took helped me build my portfolio that, I, in the interviewing process and everything, helped me, put myself above the rest. And those communication skills, attending different events and whatnot, helped me secure that job that I am currently at right now.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And I can see Alex's question in the chat. So Bill works for Braithwaite Communications. So it's marketing agency here in Philly.
Thank you for answering, Marissa.
Sorry, old habits die hard.
I got it.
Okay.
Awesome. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you are able to, it would really help the panelists. We'd love to see your faces, just for that one-on-one networking. So if you are able to, we'd love for you to turn your camera. If not, we understand though, but just wanted to bring that up. And then, so I'm just going by my screen here. So Clarissa, if you'd like to introduce yourself, just kind of share your major, your current position, and then also how, Klein and the Department of Advertising and Public Relations shaped your career.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I see familiar faces, new faces. So I love to see faces in 2020. I graduated in 2018. I started as a journalism major and was so convinced that I was going to be the next Erin Andrews. I was going to be into sports broadcasting. I currently work in pharmaceuticals, so the tides have turned. But part of my story is that, so I eventually switched over to strategic communication because I started off with a PR minor and just fell in love with PRSSA and Prowl and decided to make it my whole major. So I was really involved in PRSSA, the mentorship program. I was super involved in Prowl Public Relations. I was firm director my senior year, so I credit that to literally all of my success. And if I wasn't the firm director for Prowl, I genuinely don't know where I would be today. So it really shaped my career for post grad. I started at Hunter Public Relations in Manhattan. I'm originally from New Jersey, so moved back home, went to New Manhattan. Hunter's a consumer PR firm, so I worked on health and beauty products. Then I went to 5W Public Relations because I wanted more traditional PR experience. And I was working on health and wellness, consumer clients. And then literally last month, it feels like it's been a year, but last month I started at GCI Health, which is pharmaceuticals. And I love it because it just brings me back to finding like a purpose for PR and helping patients tell their stories and things like that. But obviously a complete 180. I'm not Erin Andrews. I'm not on the sidelines reporting for like Buffalo Bills and oh gosh, this is my internet is unstable. That's good. So yeah, definitely not doing sports reporting, but happy where I am. Klein like completely like pivoted my career for me, and I owe them a lot of gratitude for that.
Awesome. Thank you. I actually also like love Erin Andrews.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hate to say it, but like obviously there is really no sports industry right now. So
So
even if I had a career, I probably
it's
would be
a
on
good call.
unemployment. Yeah. So
There you
right
go.
now I'm pharma and health, which is a thriving
Place to
industry.
be. Yes.
Place to be.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And
Thanks.
then, yeah, next on my screen, Kieran, if you just want to jump in and kind of, again, just share a little bit about, yourself and your time at Klein, as well as, how the department helped you with your career.
Before I start, can everyone hear me? Because everyone's frozen right now.
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, just let me know at any point, just put it in the chat. Um,
Will do.
Clarissa, when you warned about your Wi-Fi, I tried changing mine. Anyway, yeah. My name's Kieran. I graduated in December of 2019, but I'm technically a part of the class of 2020. I was an advertising major, graduate of Klein, and a general business minor during my time at Temple. And now I am working as a assistant social media coordinator at Free People. I'm working remotely. I'm not in the city right now. I'm back with my family on at the Jersey Shore. So working from there has definitely shown its obstacles and opportunities, but I love it nonetheless. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, I guess just to maybe like emphasis on this. So how did Klein, I guess, help like the department?
Sure. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Just, just a little insight of how it helped you, take that next step.
Absolutely. I think the good to see you again as well, Joe. See you. Yeah, Klein has shaped me in so many ways. I would say the first is just the pre-professional nature that is ingrained in all of the programs within the college. Every single, no matter if you're in PR, strategic communications, advertising, wherever you end up, they have such an emphasis on where you'll be after school. And I have so many friends and colleagues that graduated from similar programs at different schools and just don't have that wherewithal. And it's really in the finer details too, of just like having a conversation with a colleague or a mentor, and realizing that in a program like this, being involved in the extracurriculars is a part of the job, which like obviously you're all doing because you're here now, which is no easy feat, for sure, especially during Zoom and everything else that I'm sure you guys, the students, are dealing with right now. So yeah, definitely just the understanding of the industry you'll end up in, the way they prepare you for that has taken me everywhere. Yes, definitely, Carissa, I agree. And then the other thing is just everything in the program is really cooperative. I think there's a lot of group projects and just like you learn how to work together, and all the different parts that make up a team within advertising and PR and communications. And that's definitely been beneficial in whether it's my role now or my internships, just to realize what everyone's role in the greater picture is and how I can be a more empathetic worker to a colleague's position, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much.
Totally.
So going next on my screen, Marissa, would you like to take it away? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Marissa Rial. Kate, thank you for having me. And I'm so excited to see what a big turnout this is, especially over Zoom. I graduated in the class of drawing a blank, 2018, 95 now. And I was a strategic communication major with a public relations concentration. And then I also did like an event planning certificate through the hospitality school with some extra credits. So, you know, overall, I think I always kind of knew I wanted to do PR even before I really knew what strategic communications was and kind of really what you know, it drills down to. So I was really lucky with that. I also was horrible at math and kind of had some other fields I could easily cross out my list, you know, cross off my list, which I'm sure a lot of you can relate to. You know, like Bill, I worked at Braithwaite Communications for almost 3 years, and I'm a full 3 days into my new job now. Now I'm a communication specialist at Janssen, which are the pharmaceutical companies of Johnson & Johnson. So in this job now, still fully figuring out what exactly I'm doing, but it's on 3 main focus areas for product communication, so different drugs that they have for MS, schizophrenia, mood disorders, and things like that. So, you know, like Clarissa in healthcare now, it's been fascinating to kind of, you know, learn and understand this world. And I think there's just, you know, so many different paths and, you know, varieties of ways that you can kind of take your major and, you know, find something that you're passionate about and kind of, you know, combine the two and find a career there. You know, and for what Klein has done for me in my career, you know, for me, it's really been, you know, aside from fantastic professors and wonderful classes and really learning a lot there, what really brought it to life for me was, you know, the networking opportunities and having access to, you know, professionals even as a student, which kind of laid the groundwork for growing a really big network and being able to get internships and jobs from there. Actually, at the same time that Clarissa was firm director, I was assistant firm director of Prowl. We actually lived together. I always say that at the View. So it was like Prowl headquarters there. And then at the same time, I was also the vice president of PRSSA. So it was very much like eat, breathe, sleep PR as much as possible, you know, talk to as many people as you can, you know, and attend events like this, just like you guys are all doing. But my biggest piece of advice, which we'll probably get to later, is just, you know, follow up. You know, you never know where a connection could lead to. You know, I literally emailed someone who spoke in my class once, like 5 years ago, and asked him a question. He got back to me in like an hour. So, you know, I'm happy to be a new contact for all of you, and I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I just see a question in the chat from Alex real quick. Do you mean that in becoming vice president in Prowl? I just want to double check I'm understanding that.
Yes.
Yeah, so Marissa, the question was, you know, how did you take that step from, I guess, account associate to assistant firm director or even account executive and up?
Yeah, sorry. So I was VP of PRSSA and then AFD of Prowl at the same time. So you're asking how I
That was my bad.
no, sorry. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So you mean how did I do both at the same time, or in Prowl, how did I kind of grow up, I guess?
I want to know, how did you grow up?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think in Prowl, it was constantly kind of seeking out leadership positions. So, and this is something that you can all take in your, you know, careers now too, even as you kind of enter the professional world, is don't be afraid to let other people know, what your goals and aspirations are. So even as an account associate, where it's like, people who's it's like their first or second semester in Prowl, and you're still kind of, learning. I said, I want more responsibility. I completed all of my assignments on time. I kind of proved myself to show them, that I was worthy of, handling this trust, and having more responsibility, and, kind of constantly finding ways to provide value. And then from there, it kind of, it snowballs, easily from there, almost, because you're doing so much of the, hard work at the ground level. So I think an associate, then Clarissa, we had like junior account executives, and then kind of up from there.
Yeah. I took like the super traditional path. I was like account associate, assistant account exec, assistant firm director. And just to plug the mentorship program, which I'm sure they still have at PRSSA.
Right.
I was the director of mentorship 1 year at PRSSA, and that was like such a transformative experience because it connects you with different upperclassmen who can help you navigate, the world of internships and networking and just getting your foot in the door. So I'm gonna plug it. You should join it. And now Prowl and PRSSA are tenfold of what they used to be when Marissa and I were in the leadership roles or on the e-board there. I can speak to like just Prowl alone, that like the things that they have done in the 2.5 years since I've graduated is phenomenal, and how they've become such a more inclusive environment because society has been changing. And the current just world circumstances has really been remarkable and amazing. So definitely get your foot in the door if you can in those organizations.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much. And yeah, I see some more questions in the chat. We're just going to let our last two panelists introduce themselves, and then we'll come back to some questions and, open to networking. So Matt, if you'd like to take it away and, tell us about your time in Klein and your new position. Go on.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks everyone for having me. I'm excited to be here. This is the first time I've been doing any type of speaker event because I actually have just graduated this past summer. So I know all too well the pain of having to go to class full time and having to do it all through Zoom from your couch. I get it. It's horrible. But there are great things that can come from that. I started in my current agency. So I work as a content associate at Sky Blue Media. I started with them back in May as an intern. And that was something that came about because I learned about the agency, knew I was interested, and actually approached the representative at the Klein Career Fair. So that was a big way that Klein helped me get to where I am today. Without them, I wouldn't be here. I graduated with a PR degree with a minor in international business. That is a little bit different. My path was a little different because I started out as an international business major and realized that it wasn't going great. So 3 years in, switched to PR, and it ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me. I definitely found a place where I could allow myself to do well, but also feel comfortable doing it. People welcomed me in, even despite having the stigma of coming from a business school. I was surprised. I was very surprised. So I really appreciated everything that Klein did. And yeah, now I am still working in front of my computer all the time, every day, but less schoolwork to go with it.
Yeah, I love that. Matt actually and I were talking briefly about, the difference between school and then graduating, and Matt put it perfectly. He's like, I feel like I went from 100 to 75. So yeah, that's great to hear, Matt. Awesome. Thank you. And last but definitely not least, Celeste, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your role and, how Klein shaped you as well.
Of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Celeste Rosado. Thank you so much for having me. I graduated in May 2020, so I did experience half of a semester online and then had an internship that went virtual as well, so I feel you guys. I'm currently an assistant account executive at Monroe Creative Partners. They're an advertising agency right in Center City. Klein helped me so much. I went in to Klein undecided. I knew I wanted communications because didn't want to do math, didn't want to be a teacher, but knew, I'm good with people. I like creative things. Let's try communications. So took intro classes, literally picked advertising and MSP based off of the description in the pamphlet that I was handed. I was like, these two sound cool. And went with advertising after my first semester, and it's been amazing ever since. I got all of my internships through either professors or the Klein Career Fair. Temple Ad Club, I served as the president for 2019 to 2020, and that was just an absolutely amazing experience. I did NSAC, I did the Google Online Marketing Challenge. Like, I really took advantage of everything that Klein and the advertising department offered. And also even just my fellow students and colleagues. Like, I'm just so thankful and so surprised by how many people were willing to help. Like, everybody wanted to help. As long as you asked, you were going to get it. So really, really thankful for Klein.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again. We're so happy to have you guys, and just hearing your brief experience and your introductions has been great already. So when everyone registered, they were able to, provide a question that they would like to ask you guys throughout the night. We kind of put together a few prompted questions that, just to get the conversation started. Sorry. And, for those who, are attending, feel free to, use the chat to build upon, the question I start with, and, feel free to ask specific questions to a specific panelist. But, just to kick things off, kind of, again, just regarding college, just because there are some, students here who are still, in their sophomore, junior years, still, navigating this virtual life and trying to take the most of the responsibilities that are in front of them. I guess just a good question to start off is, what kind of opportunities, we kind of talked about this, but if there's something even more specific of what opportunities did you take advantage of as a college student, and, how that help you where you are now, whether if you want to go more into detail about your time with PROW or PSSA, even just plugging the mentorship program. But yeah, I'll kind of open the floor, whoever wants to pop in, but if there's just anything specific that, comes to mind that you think will be really helpful for everyone to hear.
Marissa and I were part of PPRA. Marissa was definitely, she's much more involved, obviously, down there, since she is still in the city, but she recruited me to join, and it's the Philadelphia Public Relations Association. So obviously, like, every city has their own PRSA chapter, but PPRA is really unique because it's just localized to Philadelphia. And they have a lot of cool, like, networking events and opportunities to meet people. So I'll try to keep my answers super short and simple, but Marissa can probably speak to it a little more. But it's a huge opportunity to join. That's not just related to on campus, but you're in the city, so you have to think beyond the campus.
Yeah, I can echo that. I think the common theme that we're going to be speaking to is just making those professional contacts as early as you can as a student. And I know that that may seem far-fetched or intimidating, but really, if you just kind of put a plan in place for yourself, or a goal of, even now, I think it's almost easier to make professional contacts virtually than sometimes in person. When there's an event and there's a speaker, and then there's a line of literally 15 kids, and you can't even get to the person. I think now it's you can email, you can set up that Zoom call, have a virtual coffee. And I think that people are, maybe more willing to spend, 15 minutes now that we're home, and kind of have opportunities that way. But yeah, like Clarissa said, I think PPRA from, very early on, was helpful, and I think that advice is even more important to students in our field than almost anything else, because our field is so almost like reference heavy. You know what I mean? Like I almost every single person I know in PR, or in the communications field, if they're hiring, like they kind of tell like their networks first before even posting it on LinkedIn, or posting it on the website. So it's kind of like, if you have like that in, and like what's available, or you let someone know that you are looking, you can kind of be on like the rise to the top of people's minds, and let them know like, oh yeah, like I did meet a student like 2 weeks ago who said that they were looking, like let's see if we can interview them, or something like that. So I think that's also the reason why we're recommending that too.
Awesome. Did anyone else want to jump
I'll
in?
feed off of that. Really, to the same tone of things, I guess the only thing I'll amend to it is, you'll never know which of your efforts is going to be the one that you wish you made. So it's like casting a wide net, because there'll always be a lot of opportunities. Some you'll see to be better for you than others, but you'll never know which one leads to the next step that you want to take. And what's so good about Klein and Temple in general is that you're being handed so many opportunities at every corner you look. So whether that's within the college, within the university, within the city, and like it's all a part of one ecosystem. So what's the worst that can happen? There's very few reasons to say no, maybe in 2020 more than others, but you'll never know what leads to a job.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's great. And yeah, I just noticed Celeste popped in there too with, the Philly Ad Club. Did you want to speak to that a little bit, Celeste?
Sure. Yeah. I personally, and it's actually one of my regrets, I would say, I never was involved with Philly Ad Club, but the advertising department was very good about sharing what the Philly Ad Club was doing, and being very transparent with that. And they were always looking for volunteers, and like even for like the awards that Philly Ad Club does, like it's all advertising professionals there, and you can be a volunteer networking there, and like you're going to be one of, I don't know, 5 other students, and it's like a really great way. So that's something I never did, but I recommend doing. And yeah, kind of like what Kieran was saying, like there's so many things, and you're not going to know what's going to lead to what you need. And I was going to go somewhere with that.
Well, I'll feed off and say, with those Philly, hi Celeste, by the way.
Hi,
It's
Karen.
really good to see you.
Good to see you.
With those Philly Ad Club events, just like for the fun of it, it's all eyes are kind of on you there, because you're the next generation that's coming in. So it's almost like showing up to your relative's house on a holiday, of like the way like your grandparents or like your aunts and uncles will like want to know everything about you, because like you haven't seen them in a while. Everyone is looking to you. So it's not only the pressure to set a good example for the incoming class of professionals, but it's really your time to shine. And again, it might just be a hello and a good conversation, or it might lead to something else. But it really is kind of like the express lane to making those connections.
Yeah. And I kind of quickly remembered what I was going to say. Going on with Kieran, like he was saying, like, there is no reason to say no. So, unless there is, but do everything you can, because it'll be experienced to multiple different kinds of things. If you're an advertising major, go to a PR panel, because you'll learn to know what you like, and more importantly, learn to know what you don't like. And that way you can, lead that into what kind of internships you're applying to, and therefore what kind of jobs you're applying to, and all that stuff. So have yourself experience as much as possible, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I'm just kind of looking in the chat here. We've got a couple really good questions. So Nolan asked, so what do you think is more important when landing a job, having the right experience or knowing the right person? Which, I mean, I personally find that question really interesting too. If anyone has insight on that.
I can jump in if that's okay.
Yeah.
I think both can be important for different reasons, but I think more than anything in an interview, you want to come across that you're fun, you're easy to work with, you're eager, you want the job, mostly that you care. I think that's the biggest thing, and that you'd be surprised of other candidates in interviews that they, and understandably so, you're applying to how many jobs, how many applications do you have out, how many interviews have you gone on that resulted in nothing. It's extremely taxing and exhausting, but every interview that you go into or every email that you send, you have to make that person feel like that is the only job on earth that you want, and that you've been preparing your whole life for it and all your college career. Sounds intimidating, but honestly, it's just, showing that you're passionate, you're enthusiastic, and that you want it, because I think that trumps everything else. So like, say they met someone out, and or whatever, like one of these networking meetings, and that person was like meh on like, do they really care about this, or are they just transactional, like do they just want something from me? But you get an interview and you're killing it. Like, you showed that you researched the company, like you're just super excited to be in the room, like you're eager, like you just have the potential to be taught those hard skills that maybe you don't know right away. But it's the potential that you want to show up. I think that, for me at least, like that's the most important thing. And everything that we're saying, doesn't mean, don't feel like you missed out on something, because you don't have a huge network of professionals yet. Like, you shouldn't, because like you're still students, but like, doing baby steps and like panels like this, like here you have 5 new professional contacts, everyone here. So that's my perspective.
Awesome. Anybody else wanted to chime in real quick? Or
I have a question.
yeah, go ahead.
I actually asked this in the chat. I would like to know, this is coming from personal experience, because I'm a senior right now and I haven't landed an internship yet. I would like to know, how should you deal with rejection after you've applied to a job, or in the case that you never hear from your connection again, or you never hear from the job that you applied to again? How should you deal with that?
That's a good question. I can speak to that. I always say that especially the internships and any job posting that has one of those portals where you just submit your resume and then you have to rewrite your entire resume into like the worksheet of the portal. It's a black hole. Like, you're gonna submit your resume, you're never gonna hear from it again, which sucks. And I try to avoid them. But when they do ask for cover letters, like in those portal systems, I will literally go on LinkedIn. I know you actually asked a question on LinkedIn, but go on LinkedIn and find, I applied to DoorDash before I just got this new job. I applied for like my dream job at DoorDash and I didn't get it, which I should, I'm the #1 customer. But I went on DoorDash, I wrote like talent recruiter DoorDash, and I found a name, didn't know the guy. I connected with him. And then in my cover letter, I wrote, "Dear Mr. Smith," or whatever his name was. And it helps you stand out a little bit, because that right there, even though you're applying to a portal, shows that you took it the extra step, that you've researched the company and someone who worked there. And hopefully by you connecting with him on LinkedIn, he'll see that if he's the talent recruiter that's going through the portal, sees your resume, and it'll stand out.
Yeah,
That's always like my little advice.
and examples of portals are websites like Indeed, or I know that Klein uses this thing called Handshake.
Mhm.
Are those examples of portals?
Yeah, or like those are definitely examples. Always try to go to, if Indeed is posting a job for the Wells Fargo Center, I always recommend going to the Wells Fargo website and then looking for the job, so that it kind of like skips a step. And that could be the missing stepping stone. But I also think like a lot of the bigger companies, like say you're applying for like Wells Fargo, they use those big portals because they have so many applicants. Whereas like if it's a smaller agency, in the city, that they might just say like email resume to, you know, careers at so and so.
And I'll chime in real quick. If you do, my suggestion would be that if you do hear back and it is a rejection, ask for feedback, whether it was an interview or just a general submission. I think any feedback from somebody that's reading those is always good.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. And then what was the other question I saw from the chat that I thought was interesting? So Ashley asked just, you know, what are certain things that, you know, whether it's, I guess, PR and advertising speak to this, is certain things that you should have on your resume that really stands out, you know, to recruiters, or that you felt kind of put you over the edge and, you know, landing those jobs?
I have another question.
Oh, sorry. We're going to have them answer that one real quick. And then if you want to put your question in the chat, we can come back to that.
I'll wait.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Awesome.
Something that I have noticed that helped me was doing any of the LinkedIn learning classes. I took one of the classes on unconscious bias, and all of the classes on LinkedIn, they're offered for free, and they have some very, very specific niche topics that, whether it's, if you wanted to get more experience with social media, you can do something specific with social media and have that not only automatically put on your resume, but included on your LinkedIn, but included on your resume as well. And that's something that you can do for free. They're pretty short, pretty digestible. So if you were passionate or interested in something that may not have a class that's offered, or you may not know how to get that experience without having to go directly to an internship, those are the little things that I think would help in that sense.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. I'm just also, so based on when people registered, some really great questions also, is another great question that I think would be really great to ask you guys is, how do you make yourself stand out in a room full of individuals with similar qualifications? Yeah, go.
I'd say
I would say
I don't even know who's speaking. Whoever's speaking, go for it.
okay, I'm gonna go. What I would say has helped me the most in this situation is just, I think I said something along the lines of this before, but having empathy and perspective for the person you're talking to. Because college in general is just a very self-centric space. You're all doing things right now to better yourself, and you live a lot of the time in your own person for this job. You know, they did it go out?
Just for a moment, but it seems like you're back now. So
okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I was saying, if you're in an interview with someone, they're not having the interview because they need that role filled. You know, there's a greater picture beyond that listing or that opening. They need something for their company or their organization. So you have to come in. If it's an interview, I understand there might be more casual conversations that happen too, but do as much research as you can and listen as much as you ask, you know, and when you ask, make sure it's something that's relevant to them, because that will stay with them more. And I would also make sure that you're specific. I feel like in career fairs and in like seminars like this, and it's really easy to fall in the trap of like, you can ask the same question to someone at this table that you did at the next meeting of like, what inspired, like, just in those situations. I'm not talking about today, but like in a more professional setting, be specific and understand where the other person's coming from.
I'm gonna put Bill on the spot to answer this one too, because he knows what I'm gonna say. When he got his job at Braithwaite, like I saw firsthand like how he like took every step, and I'll let you talk. Like you took every step in stride to stand out and like prove how much you wanted to work there. So like tell them your story.
So yeah, Thanks for putting me on the spot. Just kidding. So I actually got my job through the senior showcase. Senior year, we do the senior showcase, where it's basically the reverse job fair, where I had my portfolios, I had all of my pins, I had all my graphic design and everything out there. Made a connection with somebody from Braithwaite, and came in for my interview. And basically, what I believe got me the job is the eagerness that I had to do my work there and design. Like, it's one thing that you do design, but you seriously need to have a passion for design, and you need to show that in everything you do. It's that eagerness that sets you apart from anybody who just has nice design. Nice design is one thing. Nice design and that just passion for it, where you live, you breathe design. And what I did is I showed that off. They put me in a little tryout period there, which went on for a little longer than I would like, but I was basically told that the thing that set me apart from everyone else was that you have your eagerness to learn and grow. You don't act like you know things you don't truly know, like the bullshitters. They'll be sniffed out easily, obviously. So you need to have that sort of just passion. I've said that word a billion times, just to kind of elevate above the rest. And I guess, does that really answer that question?
Forgot to put you on the spot there.
Yeah, it's on the spot.
No, I think that was great. And just so we have, time to get to this before we open the floor to, our guests who would like to ask you questions. I think a question that's on everybody's mind, including mine, is, with the COVID-19 pandemic, taking over our lives, and, it's been months now, and especially graduating seniors looking to get into the workforce. How has this changed how your companies hire, or what has just been your experience with, navigating just applying to jobs or seeking out opportunities when it seems like they're pretty slim? So I'm sure everyone can kind of speak to that, but yeah, go ahead.
I can actually speak to that. So one of the cool things that I've noticed here is we now have an intern on the West Coast, which is something that our company was absolutely not open to beforehand. So if there's any bit of positivity I can put into this is now you can start in this remote world. I feel that you can start branching out beyond where you typically would have before. Say, we wanted to stay in Philadelphia, things like that. I mean, Marissa will tell you, like, we have someone in London now, which is something that before this never, ever would have imagined. But as things are changing, the opportunities are opening for you to say, hey, I want to go Utah. I'll apply to something over there, because a lot of companies are open to that now, which is crazy how much it's changed in just the last, 6 months. So that's definitely something that I'm noticing. And it's been seamless for us, at least. So there haven't been as many hiccups. So I think it's not short term. I think this is going to be, the new future for our company. So I would not be hesitant to, if you're open to working remote, I would not apply to something on the West Coast or vice versa. That's what I can say.
I actually, to piggyback off that, since I started a new job during the pandemic, obviously at the start of 2020, who would have thought we would be here today? But I also didn't really know where my career was going to take me, and I just started casually looking for jobs, applying to things. But I got my current role literally through Facebook, and I think that always shocks people. And I don't think that would have happened at all with my at the first two agencies I was at. So in this current role, Marissa's like the PR network. She's just the networking pro in general. She was like, you have to join this Facebook group. It's a group of women who really network with each other and help each other out. And it's across all industries. So I did. And this woman posted that her agency was a healthcare agency, and she was hiring. So obviously I stalked her Facebook and I saw that she worked in Manhattan. So I reached out. I was familiar with GCI in the past, and I sent her my resume through Facebook Messenger, and she sent it over to HR, and like literally within a week I had an interview lined up. And I mean 2020 I got my job through Facebook.
That's
Like
amazing.
if you had told me that in college, I would have like literally laughed at you. But you have to like think outside the box and think of different ways you can get a job, or even just like, even if I just made that connection, it will have been one more connection I didn't have, you know, in 2019. So yeah, just start thinking outside the box, whether it's on Twitter or other social media networks, or creating a website or something, just like really stand out. I think I don't use TikTok, but if I was a student, like I would have like a professional TikTok and like send that to someone, to a recruiter or employer, and say like, this is how I can stand out. Like I'm creative. Like your students in the Klein College Communications, like they set the bar really high, and you have to think outside the box and like really just be innovative, and credit that not only to Klein but to Temple. Show them what you're made of, and just think of really like out of like not ordinary things. Like just the sky's the limit, honestly. Like don't be intimidated by that.
You know, I love the positivity. Yeah, actually, Matt, I was
Thanks.
gonna single you out, but yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I was just gonna pretty much agree with what you were saying, Clarissa, but in terms of social media, having your, I know this is something that we all hear, like your social media, make sure it's in check, but use your social media more as a networking source or as an opportunity to find those new avenues for networking, because now that we have no choice but to be online all the time or watching something on our computers or on our phones, there's more eyes on it than ever before. And increasing and improving and just making your own personal accounts, whether it's Instagram, social media, Twitter, making them kind of portray your professional side. You can have it be the fun, the personal, the blog, whatever you have your Instagram or your Twitter, your social accounts look like, have them have an air to your professional side as well, showing that this is a space for me not to only network and have a social connection, but I can also use it for my professional gain, because in the long run, in a creative field, that's something that you can use as a portfolio, or even, I don't know, there's just so many opportunities in social media with all of the different platforms popping up every single day. TikTok is a great, it's so growing so fast, and just kind of putting a nice edge to your social media could definitely benefit you.
Yeah, and Matt, I was just going to single you out just because, you know, we had classes together, and, you know, I kind of saw your personal experience of graduating and finding your job and all. I guess if you just kind of want to attest to what that experience was like, because I know it's not all sunshine and rainbows. So I just guess, like, and that's actually another question of, you know, just what's your best piece of advice or staying positive, you know, during, and even, you know, just staying positive during this job search. And then also, Marissa, you can even jump on this as well, as just like preparing for those interviews and how it's changed virtually. But yeah, Matt, if you just want to share a little bit of your experience, I think that'd be great.
Sure. So I was lucky enough to actually have met my connection for my internship before COVID happened, but I wasn't able to start until the summer. So I had gone through this whole like reaching out and setting up an interview. I had never even had a chance to interview in person, because by the time everything happened, it was just so soon after the networking event that he's still the only person that I've met from everybody that I work with. But moving into the summer, now that I was no longer traveling after graduation, that everything was canceled, I had an extra month of time to do nothing. So I reached back out and said, like, I know we had agreed on June 1st being my first day, can we push it up? And showing that I was willing and able to kind of go above, like, yeah, I know we agreed on this, but I'm just as interested in starting now as I would be if it were still in person. I interviewed over Zoom. and then just followed up. Following up was the biggest part, because as from what I've seen on my like job end, is as tied as we all are to our computers, a lot of things kind of get missed or they aren't in the front of focus. So following up, even if it's not specifically about a job or just a project you're working on, following up and just kind of checking in is definitely what helped me. When my internship ended, I wanted to continue working on a project that I was going to have my name on, but didn't get a chance to finish. And by following up and just wanting to continue working on that specific project is what ended up turning into a job for me. So figuring out all of the ways of being eager to kind of just help out in any way possible was a big plus for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then kind of like I brought up, Marissa, I know you, as you said, you recently started your new job, and we were talking a bit about navigating what the new, interview process looks like. I guess just if you want to share a bit of your experience about, just preparing to, meet these people you've never met in person, and, how you went through that interview process virtually.
Yeah, totally. Yep. I have a couple of thoughts on what we're talking about here. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I've loved the virtual interview because I think there's certain benefits to it that you normally get in person. Like, yes, it could be on one hand more difficult because you're not there face to face with the person, but at the same time, it's like you have video, you can see the person, usually usually like second, third round, fourth round, you're seeing a video of the person, and there's a benefit to that. So think of it as, in, this box, this window here, you want to be professional and have a shirt on, but like you can have sweatpants on like I do right now. Like you can be comfortable. You can have notes to the right, to kind of prompt you on those things where like you normally couldn't bring notes into an interview, necessarily. And you can kind of have like more of a crutch for certain things now. I would say, still try to make that personal connection, and I think now, we're in people's homes. Like you see my bedroom right now, like weird, you know what I mean? Like what normal circumstances, like would you ever, have that almost like I don't know, more personal view into like a person's life. Like usually it's like you're in a room doing an interview and it's like that person's a version of themselves in that situation, like you're a version of yourself, and like that's it. But like here, people are more almost, relaxed and open to having, conversations of like getting to know you outside just like the job description, like being down to business, if that makes sense, in a way. The other thing I wanted to touch on too, because we're talking about, jobs, hire me. Of course, it's important to say your goals and like what you want. But at the same time, kind of think of, when you're reaching out to someone, offering to have a informational interview or, a conversation to learn more, I think is always, my preferred method, especially being like on the receiving end of that a lot, when someone just, and like many of the other panelists have been talking about, showing that you really care about them. And it's like, what can I do for you? And I want to learn more about you. And I did, my homework, and I'm showing you that, versus, like messaging people, hi, like, do you have a job for me? You know what I mean? Like that's very transactional. So I think that's another thing of like, put in the work of those informational interviews, and like where you don't know where that conversation could lead, because maybe a person you're talking to doesn't have a job for you that day, but maybe in 2 weeks someone said that they're leaving and now they're scrambling to find someone, and then they remember that they met with you. So I think that don't think of, if you have a 30-minute info interview with someone that like, oh, that's it, they don't offer me a job and that like I'm done. It's like you never know, like they could reach back out to you. The job that I just got now, I got because I interned here back when I was a sophomore in college. My old internship boss reached out to me and just said, hey, like, do you want to have a conversation about this? And that was it. So like we've been saying, you never know what can lead to what, who you're going to meet, who remembers you and thinks of you for something. So it's kind of just like kind of ongoing big process, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think this is a good opportunity, where the point we are in our conversation. I'd love to, allow some of the attendees to, ask you guys questions themselves. If anybody has a question, if you kind of maybe want to use like the hand raising emoji or just pop something in there. And then you can ask whether it's a specific question or just a question to everyone. You're more than welcome. So let me just look through chat real quick. Yes, I see. Alex, you have your hand up if you'd like to go ahead and ask the panelists a question.
Yes. Now, as a student, do you think that maybe you can give me some tips on how I should manage my time between looking for an internship and applying to jobs and balancing that with all the schoolwork that I currently have? Because I'm also a full-time student, and it just feels as though like there's just not enough time in order to like actively go out and look for these internships while still trying to keep up with all of my work if it's so time consuming.
I think you could just set a goal and make it really manageable for yourself, whether it's like applying to one a day or two a day. It doesn't have to be like in excess. You don't have to like commit 3 or 4 hours a day to applying for internships and jobs, and just be realistic with yourself.
Clarice and I used to say to each other too, when we were in senior year, like graduation is not a deadline, like by any means. Like don't think that like that's like, an expiration or anything like that, or like as like a deadline of like, oh my God, I need a job by this date. Like, especially now, like that couldn't be farther from the truth. So like it's an ongoing process. I think in general though, I would say, and I totally understand balancing schoolwork and how difficult that could be. But a lot of times job postings do move really quickly, honestly, like especially on LinkedIn. So like a job may only be open for like a week or something. And like say that you saved it and like you were planning to apply on the weekend, like it might be down by then. Like you never know. So that's the only thing, is just like, kind of being mindful of like if there's something that like you really think you want to apply to, hopefully.
Yeah, I second that.
Yeah.
I've literally gone out of bed. Like if you're scrolling before bed at night and you scroll past your dream job, like roll out of the bed and apply to it right then and there. Because I've done that multiple times, and usually because like if you're the first to apply to it, it gives you an advantage. So not that, don't give up your beauty sleep, but be proactive about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. It's actually something I've had on my mind as well. Yeah, just looking in the chat, Chris asked a great question. She asked, what is a campaign or strategic plan that you enjoyed putting together?
I can talk. I just started my job back in October. It's like a little over a month, so I haven't been on anything from like start to finish for like a full blown out strategic plan that like wasn't already alive when I started. But just like a fun project that I get to work on right now. We were just briefed last night. There's like a parent company that does a bunch of restaurants in cities all over the world. And we were just briefed on 3 new concepts for restaurants that will be in London in a hotel. And we get to, like, I'm kind of account managing, project managing all 3 concepts. So it's like 3 different restaurants, and we get to come up with like the branding, the typography, like making the restaurant come to life. And there's like a seafood one. There's like what will be like a brunch bar and everything. So really, really fun stuff.
That's awesome.
So one of the things, Sky Blue Media, the agency I work for, we work in the entertainment realm with all kinds of different clients, from athletes to filmmakers, singers, authors, all kinds of really, really cool clients. So I get to work on a lot of really cool things and hear a lot of really, really awesome names. But one of the really cool things that I don't want to say finished because we just sent the brainstorm doc over, but we're working on promoting a TV show that's coming out on January 15th for Apple TV. It'll be the second season of this show, but that's been a really cool experience figuring out all of the different aspects that go into promoting these kinds of things. And we're going to be sending influencer boxes to all kinds of really big celebrity names. So being able to have my hands on that thing is probably my favorite thing I've worked on so far.
That's awesome. Before I go to the next question, anyone else want to chime in?
I'll chime in.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Again, like I am pretty new in my role, so a lot of the projects I've jumped in the middle, or the new works are just starting to take off. And because I'm not in an agency role, so a lot of my campaigns look really different. But being in a retail fashion brand, Black Friday and everything has definitely Black Friday and the holidays just make things a lot more complicated. So like you have to do all these promos while building out these long-term campaigns. And actually, like right now, if I'm looking down at my phone, it's because like something. Basically, the campaign is I got to produce an IG Live conversation series for free people. And it was really with an emphasis on brand building and messaging more than a product initiative. So while all that product thing is, sorry, it's my alarm to say that it was starting. It's just really cool to bring in different people from whatever sector, whether it's health, beauty, wellness, entertainment, and just have them talk about something outside of the products themselves and just speak to the life. And the other more important thing that I'm really excited about right now is that I'm leading research for Instagram Reels in the brand. Can you hear me? I see connection unstable.
Oh, you're good.
So when I walked in the role, just because so much of it, I jumped in at such a chaotic time, just being like third and fourth quarter of the year. I wanted to take something on where I could like demonstrate my value as a new hire. So I approached my supervisors and said, the Instagram algorithm is really prioritizing Reels right now. We don't have anything yet. Can I lead the research? I'll go to these sources, I'll talk to these people, and I'll come up with 3 ways that it can live within the brand. And I think it was like a proud moment for me to show my initiative as a new team member who's really just a face on a screen sometimes, you know.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Just to kind of move on with questions. So another one I'm seeing is, what has been the hardest challenge in starting in a new workplace? It can be socially or work in general. And I think, even if we want to make this a little more virtual as well, because I know that's an added roadblock. If you guys have any insight on that.
I can probably start to answer this one since it's my 3rd day at a new workplace, totally virtually. I will say the caveat, I know a couple of people from interning, so it's like 1% slightly less awkward, but still, there's challenges, especially because, I think the reality of it is that a lot of the colleagues I work with, they have super full plates and they're really busy kind of, working on their own stuff. And I think this is another piece of advice, when you start a new job too, is that, if it's quiet or they kind of like leave you to, do onboarding or reading it, it's that they trust you and that they're just busy. And it's not that, they don't want to spend that time with you. Like I had my new manager call me at like 5:00 yesterday just to say, like, I'm so sorry, I haven't called you and welcomed you. Like, she's like, I threw this onboarding packet at you. I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, I'm reading. I'm like, I'll let you know. She's like, please don't, take that as, I'm not here for questions. She's like, here's my cell phone, call me. So I think that was something that I kind of had to learn too. But the other thing that, I'll use like my new job as an example. There's a lot of calls and meetings and just things that are kind of happening around me. So I'm like trying to onboard, but also at the same time start getting involved in projects and see the day-to-day of like what's going on, and start to try to be helpful and a valuable coworker to them. And a lot of that I'm getting the opportunity to do just by asking questions. Like I know that they work with an agency. So I said, hi, like, will I be working with that agency? Like, when do you have calls with them? They're like, oh my God, like I didn't forward you, that yet. Like, there's just a lot of assumptions. So like, until like you literally like, raise your hand and you're like, hey, wait, remember me? They're like, oh my God, and then you have 20 calls in your calendar recurring till the end of time, and you're triple booked. So, I think just like by asking questions, it shows eagerness. And just, running with small pieces of information, I think is really valuable, and kind of gets you a part of those conversations, and integrated with the team, quickly.
I'd love to respond to your first point, Marissa.
Oh,
When I entered, yeah,
No, you're
sorry.
good now. We can hear you.
You're good now.
I swear, like the one Zoom call I talk, this happens. But anyway, one thing that I didn't expect walking into a new role is how scrappy you have to be, in the sense of sometimes just learning how to answer your own questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a habit that I really got comfortable with in my internships. So that's something you can start now, of just asking yourself, what resources do I have access to at this moment? If it's a database or an external website, or for me, it's like the company webpage and the inventory catalog, of just, because conversations aren't as organic right now. It's not to say that I don't have a team at my fingertips that would be more than willing to help me. It's just a little more inorganic to always ask small questions that help you learn the job more. So it's about taking that responsibility into your role, and then be more impressed with you if you don't.
That's such a good point, especially now. Like, I literally have like a document of just like questions compiled to ask like the new people I'm working with, and like the document's literally like questions to ask, and then like I have like my running list, and then I try to like, and sometimes I it's perfectly said to like try to answer your own question, and it's like some I do come across, but then the one at the same time, don't be afraid to ask questions, and like so. I'm also trying like not to send a Teams message every 5 seconds. So I'm like, okay, let me compile literally 20 questions, set up a 30-minute meeting, and say, all right, let me just shoot. And then you can kind of organize yourself, yourself that way.
Exactly. I have like an orientation time with my direct supervisor once a week. So she'll be like, any questions? And it's like, where do I start? Because there's like a list of 20 that I just like took note by note during the week. I'm sure you guys can all relate.
Yeah, no, that's great insight. Jordan asked a really great question that I think it's something that we forget about as students, but did you ever have to deal with salary negotiations or not feeling like a job offer equaled your worth or expertise, and how did you deal with that?
Well, no one's in PR for money, quite frankly. Or, we're in an industry where you don't start off with a lot of money. Like you're going to work your way up, but that takes time and it's natural. But like, you're not starting off realistically making like what your friends in Fox are making. So you definitely can't compare yourself. But when also you're getting your first initial offer, feel free, if you're comfortable, to negotiate. But I would say I definitely negotiated more in my second and third positions. And salary isn't the only thing you're going to negotiate. Like in my new role, they gave me the salary I wanted, but I didn't really get the PTO I wanted. So I asked for a few more days, and like, yeah, it was no problem. So think of like the other opportunities in your salary that you can negotiate, whether like, okay, is there an education stipend? Is there a wellness stipend? Do you have off for these holidays? I worked for one company where you didn't have off for the week of like the holiday break. Whereas in the previous years, I had always had off for that whole week of like Christmas to New Year's. And that was something that was just like really important to me because I didn't want to waste my PTO on it. And in my new role, like I knew that's what I valued and found the position where that was offered. So just, it's not just about like the money. Think about the other like perks of the job. But yeah.
I think that's a good point. I think especially in like creative roles like our jobs, like you go through a couple phases, right? So it's like you're a recent grad, you know, you just graduated, and it's like you'll take anything, like any amount of money is a lot, you know, right? And it's exciting, and rightfully so. So I think if it was more normal circumstances, I would say, you know, try to get, you know, as much as you can. But I think now people just honestly just have like less leverage, and the employers have more of an upper hand with so many, you know, this kind of combination of recent grads, you know, people who were unemployed, maybe with more experience, who are now going for lower level jobs. So I just think overall there's unfortunately less leverage, but not to say that there are opportunities there. But also, you know, look forward to, you know, the salary, your first salary that you make at your first job. That's not going to be your, you know, lifelong salary at all. Like, especially early on, like, you know, you're still learning, you know, you're understanding, you know, the ropes, you know, you're still building your skills. And then it's the second, third jobs that you'll get, you know, or, you know, even annual reviews and getting raises there, you know, the opportunities where you start to get, you know, more skin in the game, more experience under your belt, where you're going to have more of a case for why you deserve to make, you know, whatever amount, you know, that you want. You know, but again, you definitely build up to it. So don't think just because you're making whatever it is when you graduate that's, you know, your next salary for the next 10 years. It's definitely not. You make those jumps. It just takes some time.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Just in interest of time, we're down to like the 5 minute mark. There's one more question in here that I think would be really helpful for, you know, the people attending, and it's actually by our the Klein chair, Joe Glennon. He asked, what resume mistakes or must-do things can you share or recommend? Did you follow the Career Center recommendations, or did you break them? I think this is a good question if you guys have any good insight on that.
So it's funny. The first thing I'll say is be prepared for many, many, many edits, whether it comes from portfolio and peer reviews and professional reviews, or from the Career Center. Never have the expectation that you're going to walk out with the resume that you came in with, and you generally shouldn't. With that being said, there's been occasions where in certain portfolio reviews, resume reviews, and certain Career Center meetings that they didn't like my resume. And I think you just have to ask yourself the appropriate questions coming into that setting of like, what answers am I looking to get today? I think we come in with such a moral, like, right, good resume, bad resume, and every resume is going to exist in that gray in between space. So come in with specific questions and say, do you like the hierarchy I'm using? Is this design too risky? Is this blah, 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 blah? And like, I think you should also ask, or you should also mention who this resume is going to, because I think it's really specific or important that you make specific and bespoke resumes and cover letters for every role you're applying to. Like, what shouldn't look like the other. So when I'm in with isn't what you want, but don't expect just a good resume, bad resume situation, because it's just going to grow over time, and be open to that input.
Yeah. If I could just add one thing too, I would say, you know, the Career Center is a fabulous place to start, and my resume definitely followed that. But I also sent it to, you know, many professionals, almost to the point where I was getting conflicting or contradictory feedback. But like, if I got, you know, 4 out of 5 people said to do this, and or whatever, I can't do math, but like, you know, and 2 people said, you know, to do something else, like I would go with the majority of what everyone said, you know. So you know, I think that's important too, to get feedback from, you know, professionals and hiring managers if you can. You know, I feel like I probably look at 10 resumes of students every week, you know, who just want my feedback on it. But I think the biggest mistake that I see is, you know, resumes that kind of sell yourself short in the bullets. Like it's very like a short description of like, you know, I created X for this. Like, and it doesn't put into perspective kind of what your role, you know, mattered in the bigger picture and like what the end result was that you achieved. And I think it's like if you can pack those bullets and make them as impressive and robust as you possibly can, like I think that's the thing that like makes your resume sing, you know, versus like just copying and pasting from like a job description. So like definitely show it to like Clarissa. How many times have we shared each other's resumes with each other? And like,
Yeah, we
you know,
still
getting
do.
those thoughts from someone who's like, well, wait, like you tell me you do these, you know, these 10 things. I think when you're just like in a job, like you simplify it too much and you're like, well, I just do that, which like isn't really a big deal. But like if you step back for a minute, like it is, and like you want to really make that, you know, make it look like the jobs in your resume were like so important to like the bigger picture of, you know, whatever it is.
I think you can also look at it as your resume is, you're telling your story. So yeah, you want to make it fit to what the job description is that you're going to apply for and what the company might be looking for, but have it also give a good breadth of who you are. What are you bringing to the table that's beyond what the resume looks like? How does it jump off the paper or the screen?
No, I think that's great. And I think that's a really great, you know, point to kind of wrap up of just talking about, you know, how to best express yourself and, you know, and looking for those jobs and how to build that resume. So, you know, thank you again to our panelists for coming, and thank you. I hope everyone got some really great insight out of this, and I highly recommend connecting with each of them on LinkedIn. They're great resources to have, and you know, they're just always here to help. So I just kind of would love to round out by letting, you know, a panelist, if you have something you just want to share, like your best piece of advice just moving forward, or a little piece of inspiration, I think that'd be really great. So I'll just go by my screen. So sorry, Bill, you're up again first.
That's something I actually wanted to say about the resume. For my designer people out there, your portfolio is absolutely equally as important as your resume. I cannot tell you how many times I just get resumes from people either seeking an internship for graphic design or new position here, and I just don't see your work, and that's just not doing it for me, you know. So link your portfolio. It doesn't have to be a nice website. Behance is a great tool offered by Adobe Creative Cloud. So create a Behance page. I want to get in there. I want to see your work. I want to know that you have those design chops out there. So absolutely include your portfolio. And maybe don't over pack your portfolio, but pick those key pieces that you've gotten in front of different people and say, yes, these are strong, these have great points, you know, this is a well-developed idea, but please, yeah, have your portfolio with your resume.
Awesome. Is that like your piece of advice too for parting?
Oh,
or do you
absolutely. Piece of advice is don't like put a billion things in there, because I'm going to look at the first two things and that's it. So impactful pieces in the beginning and just whittle it down to the great stuff.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And then Kieran, if you just have one little piece of advice you want to leave with everybody.
Sure. I'm caught between two.
Hey, go for two.
This is a little bit,
better.
I'll save one for the conversations I'll have with everyone eventually.
Sounds good.
But this is a little bit less tangible in terms of the transaction of getting the job. But I think it's really important that a job offer or lack thereof will never define your self-worth. You guys are walking into a really unprecedented time, and you shouldn't be as forgiving with yourself as you can. But also know not to settle, know your own worth, because no one else, no other employer is gonna value you if you don't value yourself first. going hand in hand with that, this is not my second piece of advice, but something that just came up. Be resourceful and be scrappy. Like, that is what Temple students are. So whatever your expectation is of walking out of graduation and what it should look like, lose it. Do things that you wouldn't have done otherwise, but don't give up on your vision. So the job that I have now, I actually did a ton of interviews, did like 100 hours worth of work for in a project in March, and then it went on freeze because of COVID. So I got resourceful, and it's a fashion brand. So I came up with an idea in apparel, designed it, took content in it, and like tried to think of what other ways can I grow myself in a time where I felt like I was being stifled, and I didn't settle for something that didn't get me as excited, that wasn't worth my value, but I didn't give up either. So I know that's a lot, but
That's
just be
awesome.
forgiving with yourself.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of us graduating seniors need to hear that, as there's a lot of pressure to have that job coming out. So I think that's great advice. Marissa, I know you're always great with advice. Personally, Marissa has been a great mentor to me, so definitely connect with her. But yeah, Marissa, if you have any advice you'd like to leave with everybody, I think that'd be great.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, my biggest piece of advice has got to be to follow up. Already, Ashley and Chrislyn and Jordan have already sent me LinkedIn invites as we're sitting here, which, like, these are my kind of people. So, and not just with that though, follow up in the sense of, like, if you just applied to a job and you don't know anyone, like, don't just sit there and like wait for that email to ask you for an interview or something. Like, literally search like whatever company recruiter, like, be and this is echoing the advice that everyone has said, but be as resourceful as possible and reach out. Even people in your network, like if you know someone who might know someone, like reach out to them, see what kind of connection they have somewhere, and see if you can set up an informational interview. Or I just had someone who applied to a role in the network of Clarissa's company and someone else that we know, and he told me or asked me to be a reference for him. And I'm like, absolutely, but also, like, wish you told me sooner. I have two very close friends who work where he just applied, and not that that's everything by any means. I'm sure he will get the role on his own, but you never know what that could lead to, or it couldn't help to have your foot in the door even more. So just follow up as much as possible. And I think that that's the difference between getting a job or getting an opportunity or getting a yes and not.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right, Matt, if you'd like to share one last little piece of advice. I know you always have some great advice, so go ahead and share with everybody.
So a lot of my professional advice would be just echoing what everybody else has said thus far. So my piece of advice would be to really make sure that you give yourself time to step away from the computer. In the world that we're living in, I think it's really, really important to step back, close your computer, step outside, touch the grass, touch the ground, breathe. I think that's going to be the biggest benefit in your mental sanity in the long run. It is something that it echoes a lot for me, the airlines, when they say, when the mask drops, put it on yourself first. If you don't, then you'll die. So I always think of that, because I know that I do my best work when I've taken the time to give back to myself first and not overwhelm myself even more by allowing exhaustion and hesitation to come in.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, especially in this time we're living in. So yeah, thanks for that. Celeste, if you'd like to, share one last little piece of advice, that'd be great.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you for having me, first of all. And I learned things too, so this was great for me. But I mean, kind of what everybody was saying, like, stay positive, cut yourself some slack. Don't compare yourself. It was hard towards the end of senior year, like seeing so many of my friends already having jobs. So you just have to let yourself know or remind yourself that everybody has their own path. And I mean, in the long run, it kind of, motivated me to like really buckle down. But still, like, don't compare yourself. Everybody has their own path. And this really helped me, and I hope it will help all of you, but know what you want. Like, yes, times are different, but I always said that I didn't want a job. I wanted to start my career. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Like, I wanted entry-level account at a creative advertising agency, and I'm really, really lucky that it's exactly what I got. But I think it was because I was very honest with myself. Like, in January, April, I probably would have applied to media planning positions because I had experience in it and I liked it. But over time, I really knew what I wanted, and I didn't want to settle, and I wanted to start my career. So that's going to take time, and you might not know what you want until, 2 years into your career, but just keep that in mind.
I think that's great. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Clarissa, if you just want to share one last little piece of advice, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, I feel like we've covered like so much, and you guys, advice, I'm sure you've heard like all this before. So I'll just like end it on you should really be proud of your education. Like, graduating college is a huge accomplishment, and not many people have the opportunity to do it. And you might be the first in your family, whether you're like a foreign student or you're from California or you're from the Center City. You should be proud to be a Temple Owl, and always find the Temple Owls. I know I have worked, when I graduated and came to New York City, Temple felt like 2 worlds away. But really it wasn't, because at my internship, the guy down the hall graduated from Temple. Just this like last week when I was working with someone at my new job, I quickly looked her up on LinkedIn to see like how long she had been at the company. She graduated from Temple, which I had no idea, obviously. And I literally just messaged her and was like, hey, I'm new, go Owls. So find that connection. Your Temple made, we're gritty, like think outside the box, and just like own the fact that you're from Temple. I remember at my very first job, people literally used to call me like Miss Temple, because I would be like, I'm from Temple University, I'm from Philly. Like, we are not Syracuse students we do have a built-in network, but Syracuse students are like, they have that name and that reputation, and they automatically think jobs will just land in their lap because they're from Syracuse, which is there truth to that? Like, maybe because they're a really established university, but now it's your opportunity upon graduation to put Temple on the map, and like make sure when you're looking at your career, it's not going to happen overnight, but look out for those Temple Owls, and then be that Temple Owl so that someone else who's like an undergrad or future owl will see you one day.
I think that is a great way, to off this panel, just because, we're all owls helping each other out here. So I can't thank you guys enough for, sharing your great insight and experience. And, thank you for everyone attending. I hope that you guys got some great experience out of this. And I see they all put their information in the chat, so definitely take advantage of that. And, if you miss anything or, just want to follow up and ask more questions, we can always get you in touch with them as well. Reach out on our Instagram, the Klein DAPR Instagram. But yeah, thank you so much to everybody. And I hope you all have a great holiday, and, stay safe and healthy. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coordinating.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Good luck,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.